Hi, it's V from Crafting Daily Dose, and today I have a Joy Fold card to share with you, and it's got a little something extra. When you open it up, you have room not only for a message, but also for a gift card. Stay tuned and I'll show you how to make it. Now, a Joy Fold card is basically two cards in one. There's a larger card and a mini card that are nested together like this. So we need two card bases, and here I'm using cinnamon cider cardstock. The larger piece is 8.5 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and it's been scored along the long side at 3 inches. The mini card is 8 inches by 3 inches, and it's been scored in the middle at 4 inches. Now we need some pattern paper to decorate these cards, and I'm using a combination of the Gingerbread and Peppermint Designer Series paper and the Gingerbread and Peppermint Memories and More card pack. They coordinate, and so they can pretty much be used interchangeably. This larger piece is 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. These two smaller pieces are the same size. They are 2 3/4 inches by 4 inches. And then this piece right here is going to form the pocket that holds the gift card. And it's starting out at 4 inches by 3 inches, but it's going to get trimmed down. Now I used the second largest of the Stitch So Sweetly dies to create a layer in cinnamon cider cardstock for the front and in basic white cardstock to give me a place to write my message on the inside. Each of these is 3 5/8 inch by 2 1/2 inches. I've got a sticker from the Memories and More card pack, and then I've got several images that have been die cut out from the Designer Series paper using the Gingerbread dies. I've got 2 of the snowflake shaped cookies, and then I've got several of these peppermints and little round shapes. And then one more piece. I used the same circle die that I had used for the peppermints to cut out another circle from basic white cardstock. The reason is because one of these is going to become the latch that holds the smaller card down closed. It's going to go right here. And in order for it to act effectively as a latch, it needs to be a little bit sturdier. And so I'm reinforcing this Designer Series paper with some cardstock underneath it. If you are cutting out the images by hand and not using a die, then I would glue the Designer Series paper on top of the cardstock first and then cut around that. And once you have your pieces, then we're ready to get started. Now, I'm not stamping on this card, but I am still going to use my cinnamon cider ink along with a sponge dauber in order to do some ink blending around this piece that's used for the front layer, just to give it some extra dimension and interest. So I'm taking my dauber, tapping it into the ink, and then tapping off a little bit of excess. And then I'm going to come around the edge of this with swirling motions like this. I'm starting with lower pressure and less ink because I can always add more ink, but it's hard to take it away. Now, I've shown you most of the pieces already cut out, but we still have this piece to take care of. This is going to cover one side of the mini card to form the pocket for the gift card. And we need to trim it down somewhere between 1 inch, 1.5 inches, so that there's going to be room for the gift card to sort of poke out to make it easier to grab. Now the simplest thing to do would be to just go ahead and trim off like 1.5 inches, but you can also dig around in your stash for different dies and punches that could give you a more interesting border when you go to trim that down. So that's why I didn't give you exact measurements. So for example, since I have the gingerbread dies out, I could use this ornament shaped die to create a little finger notch here. So it would go like this. It would look like that. Or I can use the icing die to create a scalloped edge. Just so you can kind of visualize how that would look. I also had the Stitch So Sweetly dies out, so I decided I'm going to use this large label die, and I'm going to place it right about here, and I'll go ahead and get this cut out. So once I die cut it, it looks like this, and I do have these little things on the side here because the die was not quite as wide as the card, but that's not a big deal because I can just snip that right off. And then it's going to look like this when I insert my gift card. It'll be held in place like so. Now here you could use glue, but I'm going to use tear and tape because that's going to give me a little bit more control. Notice I'm only putting adhesive on 3 of the sides and leaving the opening alone. Now I'm lining that up right next to the crease, but be careful not to go over it. And of course I want to check and make sure that my gift card fits nicely, and it does. Before we finish assembling the rest of the card, I just want to show you that I used this large designer series paper piece that's going to cover the inside of the main card. I went ahead and cut out something from the middle of it because it's going to get covered up anyway, and that's why I can save this piece for something else. For each of these pieces, I'm centering them onto the panel where they go. I just love that this piece is kind of like the baby version of the other one. It's important to double check and make sure that you're putting adhesive on the correct side. And when you go to attach the mini card down, the fold should be on the right. Now we get to add the decorations. I'm bringing in some dimensionals and a little bit of foam adhesive sheet for the snowflake. I'm gluing the cardstock to the peppermint image in order to reinforce it. Now for this piece, I'm only going to put a dimensional on one side of it. And I'm going to leave part of it open. That's the part that's going to hang on to the little corner of the mini card. So I'm going to fold this over. We want to position this piece so that it barely catches the corner of that smaller card. That looks a little bare to me down in that corner, so I'm going to add in a little bit more. There's our finished card. We have a latch here that holds the smaller card in place. And then when you open it, there's room for a message as well as for a gift card. I hope that you've enjoyed this dose of creativity. If you like this card, also check out my Gingerbread and Peppermint workshop, and I've got the link to that in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Until then, have a great day.